As Caroline just mentioned, I look after our sustainability function, but my main role is to help the business embed sustainability, so everybody understands their role and the part they need to play. So I've been working in sustainability for over 15 years now, and I've always been interested in the interconnection between the environment and society and the co-benefits when you start thinking about sustainability. So I'm going to share a little bit of our research from our Centre of Sustainable Finance, some of the work we're doing on the just transition, and also how we're training our leaders in sustainability through a programme we've run with Earthwatch for over 15 years. So HSBC has got a sustainability strategy around supporting sustainable growth. We were really honoured to be awarded the World's Best Bank for Sustainable Finance by Euromoney this year, but I have to say there's still a lot more to do. I'm sure you're all sat in this room going, yes, that's a start, but if we're going to tackle this crisis, then lots more needs to happen and a lot quicker. And I'm pleased to say that a lot of our leaders are over in New York at the moment, and I hope to hear more about further commitments that we will be making. So I mentioned the Centre of Sustainable Finance. We provide open-sourced information. So this information on thought leadership is available for everyone in the finance sector. And our hope is that this will help unlock the capital flows that are needed to address the world's sustainable challenges. So in July, we shared our first zero carbon city research. And a lot of you will know 50% of the world's population lives in cities. That's expected to increase to 70% by 2050. And 80% of the GDP actually comes and is generated in those cities. So that success is understandable. We all know cities create positive networks, and they're a centre for job creation, finance, cultural exploration, but they can also be dirty, noisy, and dangerous. And yet millions of people still flock there. So why are they doing it? Those sacrifices that they're making for better prospects. So how can we make those cities more sustainable? So we know it's not going to be simple. We know urban centres across the world will have to radically rethink their approach to housing and other physical infrastructures, transportation, energy use, food and waste. However, there's clear benefits. So both in terms of addressing the climate crisis, but also in improving well-being for citizens. So done right, sustainable cities will improve health and quality of life. And according to the World Health Organization, and this fact actually really shocked me when I read it in the report, ambient air pollution is estimated to cause 4.2 million premature deaths per year. And that's from diseases such as heart disease, strokes, lung cancers, acute respiratory infections in children. And there's millions more people that are affected negatively to a lesser serious degree. So reducing traffic noise and numbers can also bring benefits. It will reduce stress levels and provide safer streets for pedestrians. So tackling the climate crisis as a whole will help us reduce the chances of major heat waves, which can prove lethal, as we all know, to vulnerable people in cities. So currently, there's a real fear of job losses from the carbon-intensive industries that I believe has long delayed serious action on the climate crisis. However, evidence suggests that any transition to zero carbon cities will involve significant job creation through the manufacture of new renewable power energy sources, electric vehicles, new transport, and energy infrastructure. And according to the International Labour Organization report, by 2030, most economies will experience net job creation. So a reallocation across industries as a result of our zero carbon efforts will result in an estimated 24 million new jobs created globally. So I think the argument around not transitioning and the worries about those high carbon sectors, I think, have proven that they no longer exist. So in HSBC, we also see the opportunity as we transition to ensure these cities are inclusive. So research in the US by Wilkinson and Pickett highlights the strong relationship between health and social problems and inequality. So we're currently funding some research into the just transition with the Grantham Research Institute at the LSE. And this connects climate action with an inclusive economy, which we know has quickly risen to the top of the agenda. In 2018, at COP24 UN Climate Conference, 53 countries, including the UK, signed the Just Transition Declaration. And this recognised the need to factor in the needs of workers and communities to build the support needed for the rapid transition to zero carbon and a resilient economy. So the Just Transition, it has a strong regional dimension, requiring understanding of how the greening of the economy can both help to drive prosperity in a balanced way, as well as avoiding not just stranded assets, but stranded workers and stranded communities too. And the importance of this place-based approach is particularly pressing for the UK, which has the most geographically unbalanced economy in Europe. So an inclusive transition really needs to ensure we are providing the skills and training required for those new industries. So a zero carbon transition, we know, will require cities to make significant investment. It's not going to be easy, particularly investments in public transport, energy supply and water use. In transport, residents should see a rise in the availability of suburban rail, allowing communities and other passengers to ditch their cars in favour of trains. The development of autonomous electric vehicles could also increase mobility more generally, and especially for those unable to easily access private or public transport. This rise of the innovation economy and the use of data to make cities more efficient will improve Wi-Fi and mobile services for the population as a whole. And we expect people will not need to travel as often to the office, and hopefully that will mean maybe a little less time working for all of us and spending time in the community and outdoors. And as we heard from Henry about the benefits of those green spaces. So there is a knock-on impact of this cost saving. According to the World Bank, extreme natural disasters produce $520 billion of consumption loss globally every year. So mitigating or repairing the damage from floods, droughts and wildfires, it really sucks the city's resources and places a drag on economic growth. And each drop of that cash spend is one less drop of money that's spent on vital services such as social care, healthcare and education. So one way, and I'm sure most of you in this room know, to mitigate floods and also improve air quality with the additional health impacts is to plant more trees in and around our cities. The UK government have identified that the use of green spaces improves health and well-being, including mental health. And I don't know if you've come across it, but in Japan, this has been recognised since the 80s. So I'm probably going to pronounce this wrong. So Shirin-yoku, or Yuku, nature bathing. And the research has shown that this has countless benefits, including reducing the risk of cancer, strokes, depression, anxiety and stress. It boosts the immune system, lowers blood pressure and aids sleep. And now we're starting to see doctors in the UK social prescribing green spaces, which is absolutely fantastic news. And the UK government also aims to encourage children to be close to nature, in and out of school, with a particular focus on disadvantaged areas. And I don't know if you saw the news last week, where they're talking about every school child having the chance to spend time under the stars and connect with nature. Again, another important element. We know that those people that connect more with nature are more likely to protect it. And the UK government are also committed to planting 1 million urban trees to improve the environment in our cities. Why am I talking so much about trees? Because that links to the work that we do with Earthwatch and our Sustainable Leadership Programme. And we've been running this, we've been working with Earthwatch for over 15 years. We've been running the leadership programme since 2012. And we take our senior leaders away from the office and out into green spaces to conduct citizen science. I noticed John over there, who's been on one of our programmes, so I'm sure you can speak to him later. But the research that we're doing with Earthwatch is we're actually looking at urban development and the role of trees in tackling climate change. So thinking about trees from flood mitigation, but also the CO2 that they're absorbing. So we're looking at managed and unmanaged woodlands and seeing if they're absorbing more CO2. So it helps our people get in touch with nature, but it also helps them understand ecosystems and the interdependencies of these ecosystems. We do also talk about our sustainability strategy, and we educate them on the Sustainable Development Goals. And then their role is then to connect that back to their area of the business. So they're the experts in their business area. So what we ask them is to then come up with an action plan within the sphere of their influence. So, and it's proving really successful. And I mentioned us winning the award for sustainable finance, but that is nothing to do with our team. That is people in the business embedding sustainability into their area and taking a leadership role. And if we're going to tackle this crisis, everybody needs to play their role. And that is certainly the message that we get across through our Sustainability Leadership Programme. We've also noticed that the majority of the attendees, or I'd say all of them, end up also changing things in their personal life. So we're asking them to make commitments of what they can do in the business, and they're all coming up with commitments on what they can do at home as well. So they often go home and they might be a bit more flexitarian, eating a bit less meat and dairy, spending more time outdoors with their family. And what we also see is that they just have a greater awareness and consciousness around their consumption habits. And I think we can all agree that just in that few days, what I see is a real awakening of a number of individuals in our business on things that we assume, you know, as experts in the room and who have worked in sustainability for a long time, we assume everybody knows this, but they don't. They're just busy getting on with their lives. And if we can help them understand the role they can play and how they can make a difference, I think that's where we find all these change makers out there. So we do recognise in HSBC that to achieve sustainable cities and well-being is not an easy task. It's going to require deep cooperation from all stakeholders in society, and finance has a significant role to play in that. And we do aim to help unlock that finance. I think from my perspective, the inclusive zero carbon economy is the bit that interests me the most. I think that's where we really have an opportunity. We are really envisaging, I'm not going to be able to say that, but we're really reimagining, let's go for that one, our future. So I think this is an opportunity for us to reimagine a future that we all want to see, and for us all to play our part in that future. And it's why I remain hopeful, and as I see the climate strikes and I see Extinction Rebellion and all the work that they're doing, I think we all have a role. And I think if we can all come together, stop the fighting now and just get on and take action, because we only have a few years. And I think we all know that. And I think now it needs us all to work out what it is we need to do and how we can help each other. So thank you very much, and I hope that was some, I wouldn't call it inspiration, but some insight that was useful for you. Thank you.